Okay, so Barfield, study of words, going into words. There's the remnants of history. That's their fossilization. You can go back in time and look at the etymologies of words and see how those have changed and evolved over time. And you can peek into an ancient consciousness. I wouldn't say you could fully understand an ancient consciousness because that requires initiation, and you aren't there. They are there. You are where you're standing. So you can't understand where they are standing fully, because to understand it fully is to be it. Ooh, to understand something fully is to be it. So in order to fully empathize with something, this is where love covers a multitude of sins, right? There's this quote, right? To know all is to forgive all. That's a good quote. I think that's right. And so basically, like, to judge, right? To judge someone is to say, essentially, if I were in their situation, I would have done differently. But what Cal is pointing out is, like, that's an incorrect statement, because if you were completely in their situation, if you had all of the constraints on you that make them, you would be them. You cannot, to get outside of that is to judge is to extract yourself. It's to divide yourself from them. But then you wouldn't be them. So you actually can't judge them, because to judge them is to divorce yourself from them. But if you were them, which is to understand them fully, to know something fully is to be it. If you were them fully, you would be them, and to have all of the constraints on their life. Think of it, the infinite qualifications and constraints on them that make them them. Their body, every choice they've made, their family, their language, forever. If you had all of that, you would be them. And then if you were them, you would have done what they did. No one but God can judge me. And then in the end, I would say that God's judgment of you is your own self-judgment. And that is identical with your own creation, which is your own self-creation. And then the lines between pantheism and panentheism really start to blur. All right, let's go in the verse. And it's just fascinating. There's a few words that I would encourage you to really look at, and look at the Greek, and and again, this is infinite translations. Like at any level of this analysis, save the appearances, because again, right? Everything is an icon. I'm an icon. Words are icons. This is more of my iconic thinking. We need to think about labels and words as icons. They are portals to new worlds, and they're infinite new worlds. So like when you look at a verse in the Bible, again, that verse in the Bible, that predicate, is embedded in the indirect. This is in your analysis. Do not lose the context, right? The context is the unspoken. It's the womb in which that verse is. So like 1 Peter 4:8 is in the womb of and people say this, like biblicist foundationalist Christians will say this, but at some point they stop the application. They stop acting that way. And so they'll like forget it's in 1 Peter 4. They'll forget it's in 1 Peter. They'll forget it's written by Peter. They'll forget it's in the New Testament. They'll forget that the New Testament is coming out of the Old Testament. You forget all these different levels. You forget that the Bible comes to you within the context and the tradition of the church. And ultimately all those things will come back to personal authority, which is actually in this verse